Hey guys, Mike at Carolina Aquatics here, showing off some oddball catfish from the Amazon Basin. We have had a lot of shipments from South America the last couple of weeks, and we got a good selection of really unique and interesting catfish that aren't the normal ones you necessarily see. Wanted to show off some of the cooler ones that stuck out to me. One of these guys is a super unique, really cool little guy that we only see about once a year at this size and this the juvenile color pattern. So these are called the jaguar dolphin catfish, Ageniosis marmoratus, marble dolphin catfish, bottlenose catfish. They have a bunch of different names, but their juvenile form has that really pretty spotted pattern that as adults kind of turns into more of a stripe with dark color on the top, but they're still a pretty fish as adults. They have a huge mouth. When they're little, they're basically nothing more than a mouth with a little tail on it that swims around, consuming anything that they can fit in there. Bloodworms, blackworms, small fish, medium-sized fish, my finger, anything. So they're definitely hungry little guys. They'll move around a lot when they're this size. They have the derpiest little face that looks like a tiny whale or a little dolphin they get their name from. And as an adult, they only get about a foot, maybe a little over. So it's not a huge catfish for the aquarium, and they can be kept in groups successfully. They're kind of social, and I have seen them do well in groups of like 6 or so in a big aquarium. These guys come to us from the Rio Nanay in Peru. So an Amazon tributary right about in the middle of Peru, where a lot of our Peruvian fish come from. These armored catfish here are what's known as the giant talking catfish or Irwin's catfish. They're a widespread species throughout the Amazon basin. They're found in most of the major rivers. And like a lot of fish that are found in a lot of different locations all across the Amazon, certain populations from certain river systems have different color patterns. And these ones are what's known as the 24K, 24 karat gold giant talking catfish. These come only from the Rio Tocantins in Brazil. And this population of fish as adults get unbelievable coloration, like the pure gold armored scales, beautiful, vivid orange or gold coloration all the way through. They're definitely the most pretty of all this widespread species populations in the wild, and very sought after in the aquarium trade for that reason. They're a giant but gentle fish. So unlike some of the big catfish that you see a lot in the trade or well known in the hobby, like red-tailed cats or tiger shovel noses, these guys will rarely go after or eat smaller tank mates. Most of the time, what they eat in the wild is small invertebrates and even snails. I've actually had a few come in, big size ones that came in from the wild that spit up a whole bunch of snail shells after they got acclimated to the tank. So they like all kinds of invertebrates like that. Snails, they'll eat blackworms, bloodworms, shrimp, anything you can throw in, really, pellets. But they're a super cool fish for a gigantic display. They get easily 24 plus inches long in the wild, heavily armored. A fish like that with those armored scales, it's kind of difficult to manage, in an aquarium setting. So it's something for a giant aquarium, a pond, large display, public aquarium. But they're really impressive fish, super cool. And this particular color variant from the Rio Tocantins is really, really pretty as they get older. This fish comes to us from one of the farther reaches of the Amazon basin, actually really far south Brazil, the Rio São Francisco. It's a really interesting river system that goes into Brazil and Paraguay and I believe Argentina. So this catfish is unique to that river system and really hadn't been seen in the trade for many years. It's a fish I've never seen in person until just recently. They're named after the river they come from, Francisco Doris, and they have a pretty marble pattern. They're like many of the bigger Doradids, peaceful, not something you see a ton, but will come out and about anytime there's food in the tank. These guys get to be a little over a foot, maybe a foot and a half at most. So manageable for a big aquarium, especially because they're not super active. But just a really interesting fish that it's cool to see stuff like this coming into the hobby and the trade from more remote parts of Brazil and different parts of the Amazon basin you don't normally get fish from. And coming from the Orinoco River in Colombia, Venezuela, we have a classic ambush predator. These guys are called the jelly catfish. We call them Apure jelly catfish, Cephalus silurus apurensis. These guys come from the Rio Apure and a couple other watersheds around the Orinoco. They're medium to large growing catfish that never moves, just sits there, waits for food to come near them, and inhales them with their huge cavernous mouths. So classic ambush predator, not the most exciting in an aquarium. They are not the prettiest fish, but still pretty cool looking. On the invoices and on the list, the supplier actually calls these fish ugly cats, which I think is a pretty good description. But very neat for the catfish hobbyist who's looking for something exotic and different. And they do actually change color according to their environment and their decor. So I've seen some that were kept on lighter substrate that really had pretty gold patterns and highlights. You can actually see some of the pattern on them too when they're out. Hey, there's that huge mouth of theirs. You can see where they can take down some pretty large prey items. A little bit of a pretty pattern to them as well. That gold highlights.